I don't know what Josh Hawley's going for here. Missouri U.S. Senator, the senior U.S. Senator now from the state of Missouri, with Eric Schmidt being the junior U.S. Senator. Josh Hawley giving CBS News, of all places, an exclusive that he wants to raise the federal minimum wage. He plans to introduce legislation today to raise the federal minimum wage to $15 per hour. As CBS News notes here, a position that aligns one of the most conservative Republican lawmakers on Capitol Hill with some of the most liberal members of Congress. Well, by definition, you're not a conservative, or at least this idea is not conservative at all. Josh Hawley, yeah, I mean, he's a conservative, I would say populist Republican as the parties continue to shift based on their identity. But there's really nothing conservative about introducing a federal minimum wage increase to $15 an hour. The legislation, called the Higher Wages for American Workers Act, would raise the federal standard starting in 2026 and would also call for an increase in subsequent years to match inflation, CBS News has exclusively learned. When you're going to CBS News for your exclusive, let's be clear, this was a planted story. When you're going to CBS for your exclusive, I think it's partially because you know this is a loser and it's going nowhere. First off, it's not going to happen. A Republican Senate, a Republican House, and a Republican president is not going to do anything with this piece of legislation. You can introduce whatever you want, but it's not going anywhere. And I can't help but think about one of the famous Milton Friedman quotes here. Every economist knows that minimum wages either do nothing or cause inflation and unemployment. That's not a statement, it's a definition. And I would imagine that there are many Josh Hawley voters in places like St. Joe, Smithville, Holt, Harrisonville, who would like a word with their senior U.S. Senator as he proposes a $15 an hour federal minimum wage. This is a terrible idea. Now, listen, everybody swings and misses once in a while. It's bound to happen, okay? But there's a reason that I think this is going on for Josh Hawley. I think Josh Hawley right now is trying to figure out what his lane is. Josh Hawley is really not in that Trump MAGA inner circle, and I'm surprised that that hasn't developed for him. But he's not in that MAGA inner circle. So he's out there, and he's trying to figure out, what is my lane? Josh Hawley, there's no doubt in my mind, wants to run for president one day. But what's your lane right now? There's a Trump circle, and then there's really the people who I think are going to run like as the anti-Trump within the Republican Party. Maybe there's that Nikki Haley person. I don't think they have a chance right now, but politics is weird. This stuff shifts and moves all over the place all the time. So I think Josh Hawley's trying to figure out what his lane is going to be. He's much more populist in his policies. He's come together with Bernie Sanders before on some unusual legislation. So he's trying to balance the MAGA thing and the populist thing while also maybe being Trump, but not like diehard MAGA in the inner circle of Trump. And he's trying to carve out what that path is going to be going forward to one day run for president. It's not going to happen barring something unforeseen, it's not going to happen in 28 because you have a lot of people who are going to be basically in Trump's inner circle who are probably going to fight it out, with J.D. Vance being easily at that top of the list. But this is all part of, I believe, a long-term play from Josh Hawley to figure out how to carve out his niche within the Republican Party.
And you mentioned the impact it has on small businesses, particularly in the smaller communities. But if we're going to raise the floor, then we also raise the ceiling for union contracts, right? And that's the unintended consequence here. So
everything goes up.
Yeah.
Literally, it impacts everything. First off, it causes places like McDonald's to say, you know what? We're just going to use a bunch of machines. Mm-hmm. I mean, walk into a McDonald's. I don't know which one you may go to, but there's one by us at like 119th and Ridgeview, give or take. And that one's all in the machine. You got a couple of guys or gals back there that are kind of making things, but not a lot of people in that place anymore. So the real minimum wage is always zero because businesses adapt to do what's best for their business, not to go out there and just pay somebody $15 an hour because some politician tells you that's what's fair and equitable. Why not 20? Do I hear 30? Do I hear 40? Where's Billy Long?
Yes,
Do I
sir.
hear a hundo out there? Where is he? Come on, give me something good to work with.
How about it in? 12 and a half, 15, 7 and a half, $20, 2 and a half, 5, 7 and a half. I yield back.
That's exactly right. Thank you, Billy Long, for that. I mean, why stop at 15? 15, that was so 10 years ago anyway, from Bernie Sanders and the Occupy Wall Street folks.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of inflation since then. We should be at least $22.50 an hour, give or take. So a lot of you on social media, I posted this morning, and Josh Hawley, listen, he's getting roasted pretty good here. You cannot treat New York City like you treat St. Joe. You just can't do it. They're different places. They're different worlds. $15 an hour doesn't really get you anywhere in New York City. But a small business in outstate Missouri can't handle, in some cases, for an entry-level job, $15 an hour. They can't afford it. And as a Republican from a red state that has a lot of small communities that are struggling enough as is, jamming down a $15 an hour minimum wage on those small businesses that are just trying to get by in small-town Missouri is one of the worst ideas I could ever think of if I was Josh Hawley and I was really looking out for my constituents around the Show Me State.